Organic compounds involve any chemical compound in which one or more atoms of carbon are covalently linked to other elements. The 6 components that are arranged within an organic compound are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, abbreviated as CHNOPS, CHNOPS. Some examples of these organic compounds are alcohol, large amount of acid, called macroamino molecules, and the 4 major classifications are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Carbohydrates are made from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but are regularly called monosaccharides and disaccharides, which are sugars. Lipids are soluble in nonpolar solvents and include substances such as fats, waxes, steroids, monoglycerides, diglycerides, triglycerides, and phospholipids. Proteins are molecules composed of amino acids joined together by peptide bonds and is distinguished by containing nitrogen. Nucleic acids are long chains of nucleotides that contain sugar, phosphate group, and nitrogenous bases. Each of these macromolecules are organic due to containing carbon. The 3 types of bonding are covalent bonding, ionic bonding, and hydrogen bonding. These actions are distinguished from each other through their treatment of electrons. Covalent bonding shares electrons between 2 atoms, while ionic bonding transfers electrons. Hydrogen bonding, however, separately creates a weak bond between 2 molecules. When considering the differences between polar and nonpolar compounds, polar have both slight positive and negative charges, while nonpolar do not. Polar molecules are able to dissolve in water, while nonpolar molecules can mix with fats. Electronegativity in polar compounds is different, while electronegativity present in atoms of nonpolar compounds is equal.
Hydrolysis is a chemical reaction in which water is used to break down the bonds of a particular substance. In practical terms, hydrolysis means the act of separating chemicals when water is added. There are 3 common types of hydrolysis: salt, acid, and base. In a hydrolysis reaction, the products that result include one that receives the hydroxyl group from the water molecule and another that becomes a carboxylic acid with the addition of the remaining proton. Dehydration synthesis is a chemical reaction that builds up molecules by losing water molecules. It's a type of condensation reaction in which monomers join together into polymers while losing water molecules. This process is carried out by losing OH from one of the monomers and H from another monomer. The 2 unstable monomers join together and the OH and H combine, forming water. An oxidation reduction or redox reaction is a type of chemical reaction that involves the transfer of electrons between 2 species. A redox reaction is any chemical reaction in which the oxidation number of a molecule, atom, or ion changes by gaining or losing an electron. Redox reactions are common and vital to some of the basic functions of life, including photosynthesis, respiration, combustion, and corrosion or rusting. The oxidation state of an element corresponds to the number of electrons that an atom loses, gains, or appears to use when joining with other atoms and compounds. Remember oil rig. Oxidation is loss and reduction is gain of electrons. An exergonic reaction is a reaction that releases free energy. Because this type of reaction releases energy rather than consuming it, it can occur spontaneously without being forced by outside factors. Exergonic reactions are reactions where the change in free energy is negative. Free energy measures the total amount of energy available in a system. Negative changes means energy has been released. Exergonic reactions are lived by living things to move energy out of storage in one molecule. An endergonic reaction is a reaction in which energy is absorbed. The net change in free energy is positive. Since there is a gain in energy, the energy has to be supplied from an outside source in order for the reaction to occur. Endergonic reactions have two important purposes in biology. 1, to release energy stored in food molecules, and 2, to create the building blocks of life, DNA, RNA, proteins, and all the other building blocks.
Thermodynamics, the branch of science that has to do with heat and other forms of energy, like mechanical, electrical, or chemical. It can also deal with the relationship between all forms of energy. Energy is not created or destroyed, but can change forms. This is Einstein's law of conservation of energy. It basically means that there is a constant flow of energy that is recycled from different things. Despite not being able to create new energy, it can be changed. For example, when a child is at the top of a slide, they have potential energy. However, when they slide down, the child now has kinetic energy. Energy transfers aren't perfect. Energy transfers don't always go to only one object or animal or thing. An example of this is boiling water. When you boil it, the thermal energy goes into the pan and water, but it also escapes into the air. Organisms use energy to decrease entropy and bring about order. Entropy is the amount of disorder within a system. The less entropy there is within a system, the better it can function. For example, a person can function better in an organized space, but it requires work to get that space.
Water. Water has many properties. It is a polar molecule, which means it is a good solvent. The polarity attracts particles, which will eventually make the molecules dissolve in the water. Water can dissolve more substances than any other liquid, which makes it the solvent of life. Surface tension. Water also has surface tension, a force caused by the attraction between the molecules. It makes the top of water act like an elastic sheet, so things like leaves can float on top or some bugs can walk on it. Capillary action. Capillary action is the movement of liquid along a solid surface. This is due to the molecular attraction between the solid and the liquid. The liquid is held together by hydrogen bonds, which is cohesion, and it is held to the surface by adhesion, which is the attraction. This is how plants get their water. It's absorbed through the roots and pulled up through the stem to the leaves. Solid expansion equals less density. Whenever a solid expands, it becomes less dense. This is caused by the particles spreading apart. For instance, when ice is being formed, the particles are freezing in place, but farther apart than they would be in liquid form. This causes it to float.